All right, how did that go? Now, let's go through this together. The first thing I want to do is I'm going to open up the console for the HTML page so that we can see the results, and then I'm just going to resize this a bit. All right, now we're ready to work on this. So first thing we want to do is create an if statement that will correctly check val. Now, we talked about truthy and falsy and how we can simplify our conditionals by using truthy and falsy. But we also talked about a gotcha, and that gotcha occurred with a 0. That's one thing that can cause us an issue. And we have that 0 here in this exercise. So we have to be aware of that. So let's go ahead and set up that. Now, if we're simply checking for a value, we could do this and then add 5 to the value. I like to use the increment assignment operator. Some developers say that you should always do this just for clarity's sake. Sorry, this. But basically they mean the same thing. I prefer the shorthand. And then we would log to the console. However, this doesn't work in each case because it's going to work when no value is assigned. So if I save this now, it doesn't do anything, which we don't want it to do anything because there's no value in it. But if we uncomment this one, save it again, it doesn't do anything either. And we want it to do something when a 0's there. So we need to add to this. And what I'm going to do to keep it simple, I'm going to do an OR statement here and simply check to see if val equals 0. So if val using truthy and falsy, or if val equals 0. And that will take care of the situation for me. So let me uncomment the first one, save it. We get 20. That's what we want. We're just going to check all of these. 15, that's what we want there. Now here's the 0. Let's see how that works. And we get 5. So that's working for us now. That part I added is working. And finally, let's check a negative number as well. It comes back -5. So I did add 5 to that also. All right, so that one's working for us. We took care of exercise 1. Let's jump down now to exercise 2. Now we've got 2 arrays here, and the for loop is already set up, and it's going through this array. We want to take the number, and we want to add 5 to that number, and then we want to concatenate it to the corresponding element from the strings array. And we want an underscore to be between the number and that string. So, couple ways to do this. We can use a string template inside the console log statement, or we can do one without. I'll do without first. I'll show both ways. I'm going to do this on one line, by the way. This could have been done on a few different lines, but you'll find with the code I write, if I can simplify it without it being confusing, I will usually do that. So let's do console log. Now, there's a trick to being able to add 5 to this. If you remember, if we try to add 5 to a string, it's going to treat it as a string. So 5 plus, whoops, got to get my single quote correct. That treats it as a string. It just concatenates it, and we don't end up adding 5 to the number. So we've got to do something about that. What I'm going to do is first use number to convert it to a number, to make sure that it's a number. So here we have codes and then square brackets to indicate which element we want from the codes array. I is currently a 0, so it's going to grab the 0 first. As it iterates through, it'll grab all of those. And then what do we want to do to that? We want to add 5. Now, because it's a number, this here's a number, and this is a number, it will add the two together. Now we're using plus again. In this case, it will act as a concatenation operator, because now we're going to specify a string. The underscore we have as a string, and then we're also going to concatenate from the strings array the same element, like that. All right, let's save that and see how that works. And we get a 5, 10, 15, 20. So that worked for us. Converted that to a number, these ones here, and then concatenated them correctly as a string. So we're doing some type coercion, some explicit and implicit. All right, now I mentioned you could do this with a template string as well. Let me go ahead and include that example. I really like template strings, and so this was the first version I did when solving this problem. So we have the backticks, and then we use the $sign, and inside of curly braces we can specify an expression. And in this case, what we want to do is we want to use number to convert the element from the codes array. Now notice we're converting all of these. It doesn't matter if it's already a number, it just converts it to a number. But it does matter when it's a string. We need to convert it. And so we just automatically do it to all of those. So there's my expression inside of that. And then I want to add 5. And so that will make sure that 5 gets added to the number. And then we need an underscore. And now I'm going to do another expression. And inside of this expression, I'm just going to get the element from the strings array. Like that. And so that's using a string template. Let me comment out this one. We'll save. And as you can see, we get the same thing. So 2 possible approaches to that. And in both these exercises, gave us a chance to work with some coercion, truthy, and falsy. I hope that was helpful and gave you some practice. All right, let's move on.